All right, friends. There's no Shabbat Shalom this morning.
Yeah.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
It's a beautiful rainy day here. It's raining, but the temperature fits for me. Second day Rosh HaShanah. Do not let anyone try to convince you that somehow we are slipping into orthodoxy. Second day Rosh HaShanah is the only two-day festival that's followed in Israel as well. Everything else has one day, but Rosh Hashanah, for some reason, they like to keep at two. So we are following the Israelis. So if you want to support Israel, go to second day Yom Tov services. That's all that really matters. There you go. I don't know why they don't use that.
Right.
Right. Second day Yom Tov services. You're supporting Israel, but it is second day, and lots of things happening. So we're going to start off with Matovu, page, I don't know.
110.
110. 110.
Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani birov chastecha Avo veitecha, eshachaveh ve'elecha, echal et kodshecha, b'yiratecha. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenatecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenatecha Yisrael.
All right. One of my favorite prayers given to us by the rabbis, one of the favorite brachot. I don't like calling everything a prayer, but a meditation, a brachot. Like I said yesterday, there's a blessing for everything in Judaism except for one thing, but for thanking God for our bodies and that they work at the right time and everything opens and closes and goes in and out. They had a really nice bracha for that. It's called Asher Yatzar. We're on page 120. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yatzar et hadam b'chokhmah וברה בו נקבים נקבים, חלולים חלולים, גלוי וידוע לפני כיסא כבודך, שאם יפתח אחד מהם או יסתם אחד מהם, אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר, מפליא לעשות. Birkot HaShachar proper, the morning blessings. These are the warm-up prayers for not only our bodies, but also our souls. And we start by thanking God for alarm clocks, or in the minds of the rabbis, roosters, who were able to tell between day and night. Page 124, I'll ask everyone, please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sech b'dina להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, פוקח עברים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, מתיר אסורים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, זוקף כתופים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, רוקע הארץ על המים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, ששא בי כל צורכי.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, המכין מצעדי גבר.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, מלביש שרמים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, הנותן ליער כוח.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, המעביר שינה מעיני, טימא מעפעפיי. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, שעשני בצלם אלוהים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, שעשני בת חורים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, שעשני ישראל.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, זה ישראל בגבורה.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
Amen. On page 130, let's read responsively in the English. This is the beginning of Psuke de Zimra, verses of psalm and praise. Blessed is the one who spoke the world into being. Praised is God.
Praise the one who is
Praise the one who creates with a word.
Praise the one whose vision is made real.
Praise the one who loves the earth.
Praise the one who loves those creatures.
Praise the one whose worshippers know goodness.
Praise the one whose life and being lasts forever.
Praise the one who rescues and sets free. Blessed is your name.
Our sovereign, we praise you with songs of celebration. Your oneness is the life of the cosmos.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Shemo.
melech megula batishbacha.
Amen. Page 132, you may be seated. Max is not here this morning. This is, we're going to, instead of calling it Asher, we're going to call it Max Ray because he does such a great job with it. But I'll play the part of Max today. Page 132, Ashrei. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Oje Hallelujah, Selah.
Ashrei Amshechachalo, Ashrei Amshemeloham.
Tehillah LeDavid, Aromimcha Elohai HaMelech, Vavracha Shimcha Li'olam Va'ed.
B'chol yom hamarchetav, Elohai Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Melamed, Lidato Cheker.
Dor l'dor yishavach ma'asecha, v'retecha yom yidu.
Adar Kavod Hodecha, V'divrei Niflatecha Asicha.
Ezus v'retecha yom yidu, v'dulatcha asaflena.
Zecher HaPtucha Yabiu, V'tzitkatacha Yiranenu.
Anu Baruch Adonai, Erech Chai Yigdal Chesed.
Tov Adonai Lakol, V'rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav.
Yodu Adonai Kol Ma'asecha, v'chasitecha yevarucha.
Kevod Malchutecha Yomeru, Uvertecha Yadaberu.
Navdir lipnei Adam Kuratav, v'kvod Adam Malchuto.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, U'memshaltecha B'chol Dor V'ador.
Sorecha Adonai l'kol anoflim, v'zavkecha chol ha'kufim.
Einei Chol Elecha Yisaberu, V'yata Noten Lehem Et Ocholam B'ito.
V'potech et yadecha, v'maskir l'chol chanatzon.
Tzadik Adonai B'chol Dracha, V'chasid B'chol Ma'asav.
Karov Adonai l'kol korav, v'chol asher yiklehu be'emet.
Chetzon Yirei Av Yaseh, V'yet Shavatam Yishma V'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai kol ha'ba, v'kol ha'sha'im yashnim.
Tehillat Adonai Daber Pi, V'varecho Basar, Shem Kodsho Li'olam Va'ed. V'anachnu Nevarech Ya, V'yata V'yad Olam. Hallelujah. And those of you on your bingo cards who have Rabbi loses place early on in Ashrei, you have a what is it, a square, a block, whatever it's called.
Clearly, you're no Max.
I am no Max. I am no Max. But yeah, so whoever has that bingo square, you never know. Page 135, Psalm 150. It's a final psalm of the book of Psalms. It's also known as Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, Hallelujah, El Bekadsho, Hallelujah, Bekia Uzo, Hallelujah, Biguratav, Hallelujah, Kiro Gudlo, Hallelujah, Beteka Shafar, Hallelujah, Benavel Bechinor, Hallelujah, Betelfu Machov, Hallelujah, Bemini Beugav, Hallelujah, Betitzlei Shama, Hallelujah, Betitzlei Teruah, Kol Neshama Tehalelia, Hallelujah, Kol Neshama Tehalelia, Hallelujah.
Page 138. We're moving out of Sukkot Zimra into Shacharit. The main prayer or the main word for Rosh HaShanah is Melech or HaMelech, the King. We on Rosh HaShanah celebrate not only the birthday of the world, as is one of the rabbinic teachings, we also celebrate God's coronation as ruler, as king, as sovereign over everything. And one thing I would like to remind us that prayer is not for God. Right? God doesn't need prayer. God is all encompassing. Prayer is to keep us aware. to keep the humans aware, to keep people aware and mindful of our blessings. So when we recite these words, it's not necessarily, God's not saying, wow, Judd mispronounced this word, it doesn't count. Like, no, Judd had a good insight while he was thinking about the prayer. Pardon?
I'm counting.
Okay, well, Counter Beth counts it. But thank God Counter Beth is not God, though she thinks she is sometimes. Did I say that out loud?
You're confusing me with the cat.
Did I say that out loud? I should have kept that quiet. Page 138 at the top. Holy One, infinite your power, radiant your glory, unbounded your might, awe-inspiring your works.
Amelech Yoshev al kiseram v'nisa shochen al marom v'katav shemo v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim Adonai le'sharim navat tehila v'fi yesharim titaramam u'divrei tzadikim titbarach ובראשן חסדים תתקדש, ובקרב קדשים תתעלה, ובמקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ורינה יתבר שמך מקינו בכל דור ודור.
Please rise for Yishtabach.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, Baruch atah Adonai, El melech gadol betishbachot, El hodaot v'taribot, Habocheh b'shirei zimra, Melech elchei ha'olam Yitkadav, Yitkadash shemei rabbah, Ve'oma, Tivrach kirutei, V'yamlich malchuti, בכל אביו בכל ובחי לכל בית ישראל, בגולה בזמן קריב, אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבא מבורך, לעולם אמן. יתברך, ישתבח, יתפאר ותנועם ויתנשא, ויתעטר, ויתעלף תלוש ונקדשה, ברכו, לעילה ולעילה מכל ברכה ושירתה, תשבחתיו לחמתה, דם ודם בימה ואמרו אמן.
Page 142, Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai המבורך, Baruch Adonai המבורך, לעולם Baruch Adonai המבורך, לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu haolam, yotzer or u'borei choshech, oseh shalom u'borei et hakom, or olam ve'tzar chayim, orot me'ofel amar vayehi.
You may be seated. Let's continue together in English in the middle of page 144. In love, bring light to the earth and its creatures. This is together. Your goodness renews creation each day. Infinite, varied, and rich are your works, divine artist. All of them wrought with wisdom. The whole earth is teeming with life. Awestruck by the universe, work of your hands, let all life bless you, praise you, and celebrate the beauty of your lights.
ונזכחו לנו מהרה לאורו, ברך אתה אדוני,
Shalom.
יוצר המאורות.
Page 146, the second bracha, the second blessing before Shema, known as Ahava Rabbah, and let's read together in the middle of the page. Love abundant, love unstinting, our God, you have unfolded us in love. Tender compassion beyond all bounds, your precious gift. Our fathers and mothers gave you their trust, and you gave them Torah, laws by which to live. For their sake, teach us as well Grace us with your guidance, loving Father, merciful Mother of us all. Grant us clear understanding that we may listen, learn, and teach, preserve, practice, and fulfill with love every lesson of your Torah. May learning your Torah light up our eyes. May our hearts embrace your mitzvot. Unite us in love and reverence for you, that we may never feel shamed by our deeds. We have trusted in your great and holy name. Now let us celebrate at last the joy of your salvation.
V'avienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz v'tolichenu k'mimiyut le'artzenu ki epo el yeshuot ata ובנו בחרת מכל עם בלשון וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת להודות לך וידחתך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר במו ישראל באהבה
Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Let's read together in English the second paragraph of the Shema, bottom of page 154. If indeed you obey my commandments, which I instruct you this day, loving Adonai your God and serving God with all your heart and soul, I will grant rain for your land in season, the early rain and the late, and you will gather in your new grain and wine and oil, and I will provide grassland for your cattle. Thus shall you eat and be satisfied. Be careful not to be lured away to serve other gods, bowing down to them. For then the anger of Adonai will flare up against you, and God will hold back the sky so that there is no rain, and the ground will not yield its crops, and you will soon perish from the good land that Adonai is giving you. Page 156. Therefore, place these words upon your heart and upon your very being. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and let them be a symbol before your eyes. Teach them to your children. Speak to them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may increase upon the land that Adonai swore to give to your ancestors, as long as the heavens are over the earth. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, Daber el bnei Yisrael, v'amarta aleihem, v'asu lahem tzitzit, al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam, v'natinu al tzitzit hakenaf betil techelet, v'haya lechem l'tzitzit uritem oto, uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, Vasitem otam velo tatuhu acharei lavachem v'acharei nechem asher atem zonim achareihem leman tizkeruhu v'asitem et kol mitzvotai item kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet Let's read together on 160, the paragraph in English. True and steadfast is his teaching, beloved and treasured, a source of wonder, found in goodness, a thing of beauty, and ours for all time. And true it is, the eternal God is our sovereign, the rock of Jacob, our protection shield. Through all generations, God's name lives on. God's throne stands firm. God's dominion prevails. God's grandeur and faithfulness endure through eternity. God's words are precious. They will live forever. Page 162, near the bottom in the Hebrew.
Moshe ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה יאמרו כולם מי כמוך בנים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש לא ראיתי עושה שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפתיים, יחד כולם הטובים ניחו ואמרו, אדוני יגדול לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופתח עמך יהודה וישראל, גואלנו Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
We are at the centerpiece of this morning's service, the Amidah, the Tefillah. We're going to begin on page 166, continue on 168 with Cantor, and also 170. And then we're going to turn back to page. This time I'm going to get the right page. It is, in fact, page 17. So, and if you need to sit during this part at any point, it's okay. This is a long introduction into the Amidah proper.
Adonai
Sifatai titach ufi agite ilatecha. Adonai sifatai titach ufi agite ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Le'avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Le'yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'hanora, Elyon, Gomel chasadim tovim, Bekonei hakol, Zocher chasdei avot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבינו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב והושיע, מוריד הצו. מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, שמח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. Mashiach Yeshua, Mi Chamocha, Av Harachamim, Zocher Yitzurav, L'chaim V'rachamim, V'ne'emanata L'chayot metim, Baruch Ata Adonai, L'chayei hametim.
Amen. We're jumping back to page 17 for the Hineni section of the Amidah, in which the prayer leader asks God to hear our prayers. And this is chanted with a special sense of humility as we are standing before God on the high holidays.
Hineni he'ani mima'as nir'ash v'nifchar mipachad Yosef Tehillat Yisrael Ba'ati la'amod u'lechanen lefanecha al amcha Yisrael asher shelachuni ve'af al pi she'eni cheda'it ve'aguna alecha akina v'akeshcha Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachon v'Chanon Elohim Shaddai, Hayom v'Nora, Eyena Matzliach Tarki, Asher Anochi Olechet La'amod u'levakesh rachamim alai ve'al sholchai ve'na'al tafshi'im v'chatotai ve'al techoivem bavonotai ki chotetu foshatani ve'al yikalmu bivshai ve'al levosham bahem ve'kapil tefilati Tfilat zakim v'nakil ufirkunael v'kol na'im u'me'arav b'da'atim haberiyot v'hina diglenu alecha ahava V'chol b'sha'im techasa ve'ahava V'chol tzarot v'ra'ot hafach lanu u'lechol Yisrael l'sasam u'lesimcha l'chayim u'shalom Ha'en והשלום אהבו, ואל ישוב לשכוב בתפילתי.
We're going to jump now back up ahead to page 174, the beginning of the Unatana Tokef prayer, often misinterpreted as a prayer to frighten us into thinking that God is sitting on a throne writing our names in a book. This prayer was written by a rabbi in what would ultimately become, I would imagine, Germany or Western France, Eastern France, in the middle during the Crusades, when he watched his community get struck down by the Crusaders heading into Israel to take it back from what they called the infidels, the Muslim Moors. The Moors? Is it the Moors? The Moors. Anyway, they sharpened their swords on the Jewish communities, and he wrote this prayer, not that he believed that God was sitting in heaven judging us this way, but as a warning to us. Some of us are going to die. We're all going to die. Some of us maybe this year, some of us next year, we don't know. And what he's pleading with us is to wake up and take life seriously. Don't keep putting off on tomorrow, what you need to take care of today. And the ways that he lists of how people will die, it is simply ways in which he lived. Now we would say through overdose and AR-14 and AIDS and all sorts of things that he would not have been able to imagine. So Leonard Cohen wrote a piece that sounds a lot like Unatana Tokef, in which he asks who by fire, who by water, who by overdose, who by gunfire. And so keep that in mind. It's not that we're being judged. It's meaning to wake us up and to live life, not merely to exist, but to live. Top of page 174.
ובחלקת לקדושה, כי אתה אלוהינו מלך, ונתן תוקף קדושת היום, כי הוא נורא והיום, ובו תינשא מלכותך, ויכון בחסד כיסאך, ותשב עליו באמת.
Let's read together in the English at the bottom of the page. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal, you record and recount. You remember all we have forgotten, and when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other.
ובשופר גדול ייתקע, וכל דממה דקה יישמע. ומלאכים יחפזון, וכיל תורתה יחזון. ומלאכים יחפזון, וכיל תורתו יחזון, ויאמרו, הנה יום הדין. לבכות על צבא מרום בדין, כי לא יזכו בעיניך בדין, כי לא יזכו בעיניך בדין. וכל באי עולם יעברון לפניך, כבני מרום יעברון לפניך. לפניך, כבני מרום, כבקרת רועה דרור, מעביר צאנו תחת שבטו, כבקרת רועה דרור, מעביר צאנו תחת שבטו, כן תעביר ותספור, ותספור ותמנה, ותפקוד נפש, ותפקוד נפש כל חי, ותחתוך קצבה לכל בריאה, ותכתוב את גזר דינם. בראש השנה ייכתבו, יום צום כיפור ייכתבו, בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייכתבו. כמה יעברו וכמה ייבראו, מי יחיה מי ימות, מי בקיצו ומי לא בקיצו. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייכתבו, בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייכתבו. מי באש ומי במים, מי בחרב ומי בחיה, מי ברעב ומי בצמא, מי ברעש ומי במגפה, מי בחניקה ומי בסקילה. בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייכתבו, בראש השנה ייכתבו, וביום צום כיפור ייכתבו. מי ינוח ומי ינוח, מי ישקיט ומי יתעורר, מי ישלב ומי יתייסר, מי יעני ומי יעשיר, מי יושפל ומי ירום. ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירים את רוב הגזרה.
Let's read together back on page 178. On Rosh HaShanah it is written, on the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled and who exalted? But through the return to the right path, through prayer and righteous living, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. We're on page 182 right now. Let's read that paragraph near the top together in English. We who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. And at the bottom, But for you, ever-living sovereign, time has no limits. Your presence, unbounded by days and years, is everywhere. A glorious mystery none can decipher. Your name is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name. And our name you have linked with yours. Page 184, the Kedusha.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב ביד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו בעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך לנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה.
We are at 186.
ובכן תן תחתך אדוני אלוהינו על כל מעשיך, ואימתך על כל מה שבראת.
And so, in your holiness, give all creation the gift of awe. Turn our fear to reverence. Let us be witness of wonder. Perceiving all nature as a prayer come alive, we bow to the sovereignty of your strength, the primacy of your power. We yearn for connection with all that lives, doing your will with wholeness of heart. Awe-inspiring is your creation, awe-encompassing your transcendent name.
ובכן תן כבוד לעמך, תהילה ליראיך.
And together in the middle of 188, and so in your holiness, give your people the gift of honor. Bless with praise those who praise you. Bless with hope those who seek you. Give your believers a basis of faith, true happiness for the land of Israel, true joy in Jerusalem. May the sparks of David, your servant, soon grow bright enough for us to see, a beam of light in the darkness, a promise of perfection.
ובכן צדיקים יראו וישמחו, וישרים יעלוזו.
And so in your holiness, give the righteous the gift of vision, a vision with bright joy. A world where evil has no voice and the rule of malevolence fades like wisps of smoke. Good people everywhere will celebrate the stunning sight of arrogance gone from the earth. You and you alone, Adonai, will reign over creation upon Mount Zion, home of your presence, and in Jerusalem, a city set apart by you. As the psalmist believed, Adonai will reign eternally, your God, Zion, for all generations. Hallelujah.
קדוש אתה ונורא שמך, והנה לה מבלעדיך, ככתוב. ויגבר אדוני צבאות במשפט, והעיר הקדוש בקדש בצדקה. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש
continue silently through the end on page 216. You can read the Hebrew, you could read the English translation. You can offer up your own meditative prayer at this time. And this morning we omit the blue words. No blue words today, just the black ones.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Ay, a room full of quiet Jews. Something must be going on. Something must
We
be
were waiting
going
for
on.
a word from our sponsors, but they didn't come either. So that's okay.
God's tied up,
That's
writing in
okay.
his book. Who knew God kept a journal? All right. We are back. And let's go back to, I'll find it. Where should we go? There we are. All right. Page 196. 196. Let's read this together in the middle of the page. Our God and God of the generations before us, may a memory of us ascend and come before you. May it be heard and seen by you, winning your favor and reaching your awareness, together with the memory of our ancestors, the memory of your sacred city, Jerusalem, and the memory of your people, the family of Israel. May we be remembered for safety, well-being, and favor, for love, compassion, and life, and for peace on this day of remembrance.
זכרנו אדוני אלוהינו בו לטובה,
Amen.
ופקדנו בו לברכה,
Amen.
יושיענו בו לחיים.
Amen. We are on page, believe it or not, 202. This is the Grand Aleinu. Diane, do we have somebody to open the ark? David Glick, please come up and open the ark. Thank you. David's walking like that because he doesn't want me to feel bad walking.
That's right, there's
On the
another
side, on the
company.
side. There you go. Thank you, David. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתקווה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם בגורלנו, ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
And let's read that paragraph on the middle of near the bottom of 202. Ours is the duty to praise the all-sovereign, to honor the artist of creation, who made us unique in the human family, with a destiny all our own. For this we bend our knees and bow with gratitude before the sovereign Almighty, monarch of all, the wellspring of holiness and blessing, who spread out the sky and fashioned the land, who dwells in beauty far beyond sight, whose powerful presence is loftiest height. You are our God, there is none else. We take as true your sovereignty, there is no other. As Torah teaches, embrace and carry in your heart this day, in heaven above, on earth below, the eternal is God, there is no other. Okay, close the ark, please. Your blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what time it is?
It's time for the shofar service, I believe.
It is time for the shofar service.
I just asked my dad what time it was, and his response was always, regardless of what time it was, it's a freckle past a hair Eastern elbow time. He still says that to his grandkids. Kind of entertaining. He's consistent.
The shofar is, believe it or not, one of the oldest instruments known. It's not the oldest instrument in the world, but it's one of the oldest because it makes a sound, right? And it makes a loud sound. The equivalent would be, if you like warmer weather, the conch in, say, Hawaii or Tahiti or
Anywhere in the South Pacific.
anywhere in the South Pacific. Although I don't know if the Japanese have conch. They just have big voices. But it was used, the shofar was used to gather the people, right? It was, this was in the days before public address systems, right? So you needed something loud that would get their attention. And so the ram's horn, or in this case, this is a Yemenite shofar. And I've been carrying this around with me over 30 years. My grandmother bought this for me when I was in graduate school. And so it's schlepped with me, or maybe I don't schlep it. I think it schleps me. It tells me where it wants to go. But it was used to announce big announcements, right? Gather, have an announcement, to tell them to go off to war, to warn them of something. In the Torah, it was used to gather them up so that they could get ready to march. And now I haven't sounded in years, simply because we have very good sounders here. Mark Neufeld. I almost said Max Newman. Max will be sounding next year. Max plays trumpet, and so he'll be working on this for next year. So I'm going to do my best this year to get us to hear the sound of the shofar.
Kind of a rush. I rarely get to tell him publicly what to do.
She's not telling the truth. She tells me what to do all the time.
I said publicly.
Hold on, I just gotta warm it up a little bit. Yeah, but I'm warming it up. I want it to smell like the goat in here. It smells like a barnyard. Oh, I guess just right here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen. Ready? Here we go. Tkiya. Shvarim Trua. Tkiya. Shvarim.
Water.
I'll get you water.
is fighting back.
I have no.
Teruah. Yeah. Tekiah.
That's it for this one?
That's it for this one. Arreshet sifateinu yeram lefanecha el ram v'yisa. Arreshet sifateinu yeram lefanecha el ram v'yisa. Mevinu mazil mavit umakshib b'kol tekiyateinu. Utkabel berachamim ubratzon seder malchuyoteinu. I mean, I am full of hot air, but unfortunately I can't make it come out that. So that's
Apparently neither can I.
1,000 times better than I would
Apparently
be able
neither
to do.
can I today. Page 208, let's read together a little bit in the middle of that page, 208. God who is ours and God of our fathers and mothers, lead us to holiness through your mitzvot, and may each of us find a portion of Torah that is ours. You bestow such goodness, teach us to be satisfied and to know the joy of your salvation. Help us to serve you truly with purity of heart, for you are a faithful God whose truth stands forever.
Baruch atah Adonai, melech hakol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech hakol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech hakol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael. Melech hakol haaretz, Vekadesh Yisrael, Melech HaKol Haaretz, Melech Yisrael, Melech HaKol Haaretz, Vekadesh Yisrael, B'yom HaZikaron.
Amen. Since we have members of the choir here, how about Ritzay on page 209? You may be seated.
It's probably a little lower today than we're used to. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ve'amecha Yisrael v'tefilatam ve'ahava tikabel. Utihilil Hatson, Tamid Avodat Yisrael. Hamecha, Hilkanor V'chu, Korah B'nei El Avadecha V'choneinu, Shivuch Ruchacha Aleinu, V'techezena Eineinu, V'shuvecha L'Tzion. Berachamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamachasid, Shechilat
Page 210, you'll see on the side it says Hoda'ah, a little bit of thanksgiving. And, that's what it's all about, right? Hakarat Hatov, recognizing the good in our lives. And there's lots of good. I'm grateful for a lot of things. I mean, every week I'm grateful, every day. I'm grateful that Mom and Cliff are here. I'm grateful that the shofar works, even though I don't. Grateful that Cantor Beth is here. I really don't like her, but I don't. I'm incapable of loving people with high voices.
It's okay, we're singing low today.
That's why I can't hear out of my right ear right now, and that's why yesterday I was on her left, and now today I'm on her right because she's singing much lower. But I'm grateful for a lot of things this week, and so let's read responsively in page 210. God who is ours, God of all generations, to you we are grateful forever. We thank you and tell the tale of your praise, your power in our lives, your caring for our souls, the constant miracle of your kindness. And page, you want to
Be'av kulam yitvarach yitromam shimcha makinu tamid le'olam va'ed.
Let's read responsively, middle of 212. For all these gifts, God of majesty, may your name come to be blessed and praised, our gratitude a daily offering until the end of time. And may all life resound with gratitude and faith in praise of your name. God, free us and strengthen us.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch Shemo.
Atov shimcha lecha na'el lehodot.
Page 214 in the middle.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Hein yehi ratzon.
Ya'ir Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
Hein yehi ratzon.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
Hein yehi ratzon. May you know God's blessing of shelter and care. May it be so. May you receive the light of God's kindness and grace. May it be so. May you see God's favor and goodness, and may you partake of God's peace. May it be so. We close out every Amidah with a prayer for peace. In the morning, it's Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chaim B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha, Barcheinu Avinu Kulanu Ke'echad, Ve'or Panecha, Ki Ve'or Panecha Natata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chaim B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha, Ki Torat Chaim Ve'ahavat Chesed U'Tzedaka U'Bracha, Ve'Rachamim Ve'Chaim Ve'Shalom. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chaim B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha, V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amecha Yisrael, B'chol עת ובכל שעה, B'shlomecha. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה וניזכר וניכתב בפניך אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
Tell me the page and I'll go. Okay. Diane, do we have anybody for Avinu Malkeinu to open? No, we don't. That's good. Judy, please come up and open the ark for Avinu Malkeinu. We are on page 223, and I'll ask, please rise for Avinu Malkeinu as the ark is open.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu
Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha
Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha
Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu V'Alol Aleinu V'Tafeinu
Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu V'Alol Aleinu V'Tafeinu
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Dever V'Cherev V'Ra'av Me'aleinu
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Dever V'Cherev V'Ra'av Me'aleinu
Avinu Malkeinu Makotbinu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim
Avinu Malkeinu Kotbinu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim
Avinu Malkeinu Chadish Alinu Shana Tova
Avinu Malkeinu Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova
Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu V'Anenu Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu V'Anenu Ki ein banu ma'asim Aseh imanu Tzedaka v'chesed Aseh imanu Tzedaka v'chesed Ve'oshienu Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu V'Anenu Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu V'Anenu Ki ein banu ma'asim.
Well done. Well done. Well done. All right. Please remain standing because we're going to open up the ark again, and we're going to have the Torah service. Yay! 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 Let's see. Dr. S. Murphy. Dr. S. Murphy. Did you eat these today?
Sure.
Did you eat anything today?
Yeah.
Good. You can carry the Torah, but it ain't heavy. It's my Torah.
Hopefully.
Nope. Gotta wait for Cantor Beth to start the Torah service.
I'm working facility over here.
It's about time you did something constructive. It's Ankamoka, in case you're wondering. Yes. Ein kamocha.
Learn something new.
Page 227.
אין כמוך באלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Adonai Basemo Itein, Adonai Yevarech Etamo Bashalom, Avarachamim, Heitiva Mitzoncha, Et Zion, Tivnei Chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei Chomot Yerushalayim. Hivecha levad patachnu, Malach erev v'nisa, Adon olamim. Adonai Adonai el rachum v'chanun, erech apayim v'rav chesed ve'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, nose avon b'fesha, v'chata'a v'nakeh. Adonai Adonai el rachum v'chanun, erech apayim v'rav chesed ve'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, nose avon b'fesha, v'chata'a v'nakeh. Adonai Adonai el rachum v'chanun, erech apayim v'rav chesed ve'emet, notzer chesed la'alafim, nose avon v'fesha, v'chata'a v'nakeh. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora Shemo.
Gadolu Adonai iti, v'nerabama Shemo yachtav. Lecha Adonai ha'gedula, v'ha'gevuda, v'ha'tiferet, v'ha'netzach, v'ha'hod. Ki cho b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, ki cho b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai ha'malacha, v'ha'mitnaseh lechol rosh. Lecha Adonai ha'gedula, v'ha'gevuda, v'ha'tiferet, v'ha'netzach, v'ha'hod. Ki cho b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, ki cho b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai ha'malacha, v'ha'mitnaseh lechol rosh.
Right, that's abyssal. So, here's the thing. Sit. Oh, I said that's abyssal. The Yiddish people, please. No. Here's the thing. You're supposed to wear or do something new on the second day of Rosh HaShanah. Because, how many New Year days can you have, right? Well, 2. So here's my question to you. You actually get a choice today. And it's a serious choice. and whatever you choose, I will abide by. This Torah portion that we're going to get, the binding of Isaac, is one of my favorite Torah portions in the entire Torah, and one of my favorite parts of the Bible. Everybody thinks they know the story. Everybody thinks they know what it means. The story is written ambiguously. You don't see it always in the English translation. So, in honor of Rosh Hashanah 2, the day 2, to do something different, Cantor Beth will attest to this. I have a formal sermon written, ready to go.
I read it.
Or we can have a Torah discussion about the Akedah, about the binding of Isaac as we are going through it. And I'll give you, I hope, a deep insight into why this story is so important and why 3,500 years later, we're still talking about it. Your choice. I could go either way.
Show of hands. All those in favor of a
Very long sermon.
He has no preference whatsoever.
No, I have no preference.
It's a very good sermon. So all those in favor of the sermon, raise your hands.
A sermon.
All those in favor of a fascinating, obviously energetic discussion, raise your hands.
Then we'll do that.
Discussion wins. It really is actually a remarkable.
My sermon is over here crying now, but that's okay. I will find a way to deliver
We're
it.
going to
yet.
email it to everybody and test you on it on Colby Drive.
Oh no, I'm just going to either give it later today instead of hearing the shofar, they can hear my sermon.
Oh, there you go.
Or on Yom Kippur, when we have nothing better to do, I'll just give 2.
There you go.
Or 3. No, like I said, friends, I either way, but I hope you'll enjoy the Torah discussion. Sir, I can't remember your name in back of David. Are you a Kohen? Are you a Levi? You're an Israelite? The best of us are. Would you like the first Aliyah? Please. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's just by better people than me.
You and everybody else. Don't worry.
Yeah, Ahmad.
Moshe Avram ben Chaim Shmuel.
Moshe Avram ben Chaim Shmuel la'aliyah harishon.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'om Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'om Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar mikol ha'amim v'nosan la'aretz taraso. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein ha'torah.
Amen.
You will find the Torah reading for this morning, just in case you want to follow along, on page 240. Amen. Vayehi achrei hadavarim ha'eleh v'ha'elohim nisa et Avraham vayomer elav Avraham vayomer hineni vayomer kachna et bincha et yechidcha asher ahavta et Yitzchak velech lecha el eretz hamoria v'ha'alehu sham le'olah al achad ha'harim asher omer eilecha vayashkem Avraham babocher v'yachavosh et chachamoro v'yikach et shnei narav ito v'et Yitzchak beno vayavaka eitzei olah Vayakom vayelech el hamakom asher amar lo ha'elohim.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chai olam nota b'sokenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. All right, so Yeshkoach. So the first Aliyah, God calls out to Abraham. And Abraham enters in true fashioned for Abraham. Hineni, here I am. Right? So God has called out to Abraham a number of times throughout Abraham's life, and every time Abraham answers with some sort of hineni or some sort of action. And so God says to Abraham, "Kachna et bincha." The na there is it's a formal request. God's saying, please take your son, your only son, the son you love, Isaac. Right? Now, that seems strange to my ears. Why does God have to say, take your son, your only son, the son you love, Isaac? Why doesn't God just say, take your son? Why doesn't God just say, take your only son? Why doesn't God just say, the son that you love? And why doesn't God just say, Kachna et Yitzchak? Take Isaac. Well, that has troubled a lot of commentators. And Rashi, our greatest Torah commentator, says, we're getting one half of a conversation. We're getting God's half of the conversation. We're not getting Abraham's for whatever reason. And so Rashi says, when God says, Kachna et bincha, take your son, Abraham says, I've got 2 sons. Right? Take your son. I've got 2 sons. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about Ishmael. He is Abraham's firstborn son through a woman named Hagar. And so when God says, take your son, Abraham pretty much knows that, we know that it's some sort of a test. Abraham is thinking, God doesn't call on me just to say, how are you? And so God says, take your son. Abraham retorts with, I've got 2 sons. God says, your only son. Abraham says, yeah, each son is the only son of his mother. Therefore, I have 2 only sons. God says, the son you love. Abraham's not falling for this, right? Abraham is not just going to roll over in a way, because Abraham often gets accused by me in this story of simply rolling over for God, right? Because every other time God wants to do something that's a little crazy, Abraham speaks out. God says, I'm going to destroy the cities on the plain. I'm going to destroy Sodom and Amorah. Abraham says, really? You say you're the God of justice. Should you not act justly? I mean, imagine the chutzpah on Abraham to say something like that, right? We call you the God of justice. We call you a just God, and you're going to wipe out 2 cities? What if there are 50 righteous people in those 2 cities? God says, all right, 50. Abraham says, wait. What if there's 40? God says, all right, 40. Abraham says, there just might be 30. God says 30. Abraham says 20. God says, for 20 people, I won't destroy the cities. Abraham says, finally, what about 10 people? God says, 10. That's it, 10. If you can find 10 people in those 2 cities, I won't destroy them. Right? This is the difference between Abraham and Noah. Right? This is why we trace our lineage back to Abraham and not to Noah specifically, because Noah, when God said, I'm going to destroy the earth, what did Noah say?
Okay.
He didn't even say okay. He didn't say anything. He said nothing. God says, I'm going to destroy everything. I'm going to destroy everybody except you and your family. I'm really going to do this. Noah builds the ark. The only time Noah speaks in the entire Parsha is when he gets drunk and curses his son. Those are the only words we hear from Noah. But from Abraham, we hear all sorts of arguments with God, except what people say when they read this, where it says, when we read it, you read the English, it's take your son, your only son, the son you love, Isaac. There's no rebuttal. There's no back and forth between them. Rashi says we can't abide by that. That's out of character for Abraham. So we have to have the conversation. So God says, take your son. Abraham says, I have two. Your only son, each son is the only son of his mother. The son you love, I love them both. Finally, in exasperation, God says, Isaac, take Isaac. And then Abraham said, okay, so now you made it clear, right? And this is something I just realized right now. If Abraham did not do all of that back and forth, if God said, take your son, and all of a sudden Abraham chose Isaac, Abraham had to make that decision. Abraham makes God say what God wants. Right? I have two sons. I love each son's the only son of his mother. I love both sons. God's now backed into a corner. I tried to get him. I tried to get him to make that decision. No, he didn't. Now I have to say Isaac. And then now Abraham knows what's going on. And then here comes the kicker. Go to a mountain in the land of Moriah. Go to Moriah, to a place that I will show you. God never tells Abraham where to go. God always says, start out and I will tell you, right? We see the words Lech Lecha here, which is the first time we met Abraham a parsha ago. God says to Abraham at that time, Lech Lecha, you go. Go to the land that I will show you. Doesn't name it, doesn't say go to Canaan. It says go to the land that I will show you. It's a step of faith, right? God says to Abraham, go. And if Abraham would say, where? That's not faith. God says, Lech Lecha, go to the land that I will show you. Abraham says, okay, I'm going. God says, go to Moriah, go to that land, and I will show you the mountain where you're going to do what? You're going to offer Isaac as an olah, a burnt offering. There's no other way to translate it. You're going to sacrifice your son, your only son, the son you love, Isaac. And you're going to make him an offering for me. Okay? Now, who's speaking right now? God. You got to remember this. Abraham is in conversation with God directly. All right? So Abraham gets up that morning. He gets his donkey, right? His chamor, right? If anybody ever calls you a chamor, that is not a nice thing, right? It means donkey, means ass. I mean, it means a whole bunch of things, but it's not nice. But he gets up, gets his donkey, and he takes with him Shnei Na'arav. He takes with him two young men, in addition to Et Yitzchak Beno, in addition to his son. How many people are going? Four. Even I know this. I don't have to take off my shoes and socks. I can get to four, right? 4 people are going. Who's going? Pardon? And an ass. 5 people are going. The ass is unnamed. I'm the funny one. She's the pretty one. You just stand there and look quiet. That's a good one. I like that. Right? 4 people are going and a donkey. Right? He's 4 people. Got to remember two things right now. Abraham is talking directly to God, and 4 people are going. Okay. So, and he gets his wood, and he gets up, and he departs for the place that God had said to him. Okay. Hoyt. Number 2, please.
True.
What was that?
Abraham, our first true negotiator.
Look how he got the cave at Machpelah a little bit later.
Yeah, man.
Time I free.
Time every
Pain, like,
Laser.
No, your father's here.
Simcha.
Simcha la'aliyah hasheni.
Baruch, Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et Torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayom hashlishi vayas Avraham et einav vayar et hamakom merachok vayomer Avraham el narav shavu lachem po im hachamor va'ani v'hanar neilcha ad koho v'nishtachaveh v'nashuva aleichem vayikach Avraham et etzei ha'olah vayasem al Yitzchak beno vayikach biado et ha'esh ve'et ha'ma'achelet vayelchu shnehem yachdav vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham avi vayomer avi vayomer hineni beni vayomer hine ha'esh v'ha'etzim va'aya haseh la'olah vayomer Avraham Elohim yireh lo haseh la'olah beni vel yechu shnehem yachdav. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'chokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. All right, so 3 days travel, right? This was not something round the corner for Abraham to do. So 3 days go by, he looks up and he sees the place in the distance. So when they get there, Abraham says to the young man, to the Na'arav, you stay here with the donkey, right? Because, can't lose the donkey. We need the donkey. And so so Abraham says, stay here. And the boy and I, or the young boy, my son is basically Isaac, we're going to go, we're going to worship, and we'll return. Right? So he doesn't want the two young men to kind of worry because they're not going to stay. He's not going to stay there with them and sacrifice his son. Right? That would be witnesses. And if you have witnesses to a murder, what does that mean?
You have a problem.
You have a problem. Right? So he says to the boys, stay here. I mean, this is not uncommon, right? This would not be uncommon. Abraham is not a young man. He's 100. No, he's more than 100 right now, right? Because Isaac, well,
He's supposed to be what?
what was that? 6? Do we have another number? He's an adult at this point. He is in his 30s. Every picture you see of the binding of Isaac, he is a little boy. He is not a little boy. He is not a little boy at this point. And so everybody thinks he's 5, 6. He is an adult. If you think 30 is a push, okay, but he's at least in his 20s.
That's why we say Ad Mea Ve'esrim, because if once we get past 120, we just make all sorts of bad decisions.
All right, well, and so he is, and so Abraham says to the boys, stay here with the donkey. The other one and I are going to go. We're going to worship, and then we're going to come back. And so Abraham takes the burnt offering wood, he takes the wood, and he takes the fire. Or he takes the wood, and he puts it on Isaac. Why should he have to schlep it, right? So Isaac's a young man. So Isaac carries the wood, and Abraham takes in his own hand the fire stone, right? You got to make the fire for the burnt offering, and the knife. The next phrase always chills me or the next statement is, V'yechu shnehem yachdav, and the two walk together. Isaac, I loved my father. Whew, no doubt. When we would go out into the woods together, he never walked behind me. I always walked behind him. Out of respect? No, because of Abraham. Because now Isaac says to his father, Father, Dad. And Abraham says, I'm here. Isaac says, we've got the firestone. We've got the wood. He doesn't say you've got the knife. I mean, that's given. Where is the burnt offering? Right? Isaac is like, we're going to offer something. We're going to offer a sacrifice, a burnt offering, which is something that had to be alive. We've got the fire. We've got the knife. We've got the wood. Where's the animal? Which is why I would never let my father walk behind me, because if you have to ask where the sacrifice is, you're the sacrifice. Okay? And so, but I mean, Isaac is not being, smarter. He's like, Pops, you got this relationship with God. Where is the animal? And Abraham says, God will see to the sheep for a burnt offering. God will take care of this. And we have the refrain, Vayehu shnehem yakdav. And the two of them walk together. Yeah, I remember three things now. Who was Abraham talking to at the beginning? God. What's the second thing I told you to remember? There's four people. And the third thing is, we have now had something repeated twice in a few lines. My teacher, Eliezer Slomovic, of blessed memory, would say the Torah is not a blabbermouth, right? There is no wasted word in the Torah. But why does it have to say the two of them walk together? Because the Torah wants us to remember that they are walking to the sacrifice place together.
He also doesn't just say, I'm here. He says, I'm here, my son. He says,
Yeah.
Hineni b'ni.
Yeah,
So,
well,
very important distinction, I think.
it is a huge distinction because now, again, Yitzhak is his son, but every other time Abraham would answer Hineni, he was talking to God, right? And getting himself, bolstering himself for whatever test was going to come. Again, maybe he's doing with Isaac. Hineni, I'm here, my son. So okay, Abraham and God talking. Four of them are there, plus the donkey. Animal rights activists or something? No, okay. And repetition of the two of them walking together. Yachdav comes out of the word echad, meaning like as one, right? So it's not like they're 6 miles away from each other. They are close. They are with each other. There is a cartoon that I saw recently, and the punchline was Isaac is saying, "Where does the comma go?" About something about.
Let's eat grandma.
No, there's something like we have to sacrifice my son, or we have to sacrifice, comma, my son, right? So it's where does the comma go? But okay, so we got that. The third aliyah, Diane, please. No, wait, I'm sorry. Yes, come on, Diane, because you're doing so much work. Come. Unlike the cantor and me.
I didn't read it.
13. Oh, she left.
Do you want to read this one?
I got it. Take care of yours. We're at verse 9. Verse 9.
Ta'amad Agedama Shabbat Pinchas Menachem La'aliyah Shlishi
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavarach. Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ויבואו אל המקום אשר אמר לו אלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על מזבח ממעל לעצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו, ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם אברהם, ויאמר הנני, ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער, ואל תעש לו ממומה, כי אתה ידעתי, כי ירא אלוהים אתה ולא הסחת את בנך, את יחידך ממני.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. All right, so now it starts to get good. All right, now it starts to get good. They came to the place that God had said to him, and there Abraham built the altar, and he set up the wood, and in the Hebrew, Vayakod et Yitzchak. Yaakod is where we get the word Akedah, and the Akedah, when we call it in Hebrew, it's Akedat Yitzchak. Often you'll hear it as the sacrifice of Isaac. Doesn't mean sacrifice. It means the binding, the tying up of Isaac. So, why do you have to tie him up, you think?
I wouldn't stick around.
Makes it easy.
Makes it easy. Why? Because if my dad, whom I loved, had been walking alongside with me with a knife, some fire, and a cord.
Check, please.
No. I mean, often some of the commentators say that Isaac was very docile and he was very, he was willing, but he still had to be tied down because that lust for life.
Survival instinct.
Yeah. I remember I was once at a conference about kashrut, and we were talking about the kosher sacrifice, not kosher, how the animals are slaughtered to get kosher meat. And one of the rabbis was very, proud of, a lot of these things are much more humane and, than they were 40 years ago and all of that. And, Cantor will attest that I have a very low tolerance for nonsense. And so I raised my hand. I said, yeah, but the animal still does not want to die. No matter how easy you make it, that animal is still scared at the end. Well, we don't know that. I'm like, have you been to a slaughterhouse lately? Well, I'm like, go, right? No matter how humane it is, even at the very end, the animal still wants to live. So I'm assuming that Isaac would want to live at that moment. So Abraham ties him down, puts him over the wood, right? Over the wood. Vayasem oto al mizbeach mi ma'al la'etzim. He puts him on top of the wood. And so this is where it gets really good. Because now in verse 10, Abraham stretches out his arm and he gets ready to slay his son. And what happens? Oh, I love this. Vayikra elav malach Adonai. Out of heaven calls a messenger of God. A messenger. And technically an angel, but angels are messengers. Who was Abraham talking to at the very beginning?
God.
God. And God's basically saying, it's a test, right? We read that in the very first line. After these things, God decided to test Abraham. God says, take your son, your only son, the son you love, Isaac, and do this. Abraham, goes back and forth, finally decides. They go, puts him on the altar, and who calls out? A messenger. I'm talking directly to God. My entire life, since I met this God in the desert, we have had a one-on-one dialogue. We have had a dialogue. It's not been through an intermediary. God says, take your son, your only son, the son you love, Isaac, and offer him as a burnt offering. I say, Hineni, let's do it. Come on. And now I'm ready to do it. I've got the knife up. I've got the kid on the altar. I've got the altar ready. And a voice calls out, Abraham, Abraham, twice. Twice. Why does it have to be twice? Yeah, because when somebody calls out from heaven, it's only once. Who is it? It's God. But here, it's Abraham, Abraham, twice. And it's a messenger. You're Abraham. What are you thinking? It's a trick. Who was that admiral in Star Wars? It's a trick.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. It's a trap. Akbar, Admiral Akbar, right? What do I do? Right? The messenger says, do not lay your hand on the boy. Do nothing to him. For now I know you are in awe of God, since you would not deny me your son, your only one. Right? What does Abraham do? He's in a bit of a pickle here. Right? Been talking to God this entire time. Right? It's like you're working on a deal with somebody and you've been talking to the CEO. You've been talking to, no, he's an anti-Semite.
Bill Gates.
Well, who isn't? I mean, really, no. You're talking to Bill Gates. You and Bill Gates are working on a deal, and every time the phone rings, you pick it up, it's Bill. I want you to do this. And you do it because you're one-on-one. Every time you talk, the phone rings, you pick it up, it's Bill. You're supposed to do something that's, I don't know, not questionable, but might be a test, might be, a test of your loyalty. And you're ready to do it. You're ready to hit the button to sell 50 billion shares of stock or something. And as your finger's going down, the phone rings and you pick it up and the person says, Abraham, Abraham. Mr. Gates? No, I'm his, not secretary, what's the? I'm his administrative assistant. Don't press the button. Mr. Gates? Billy? I don't know a Billy. Right? This is where Abraham is right now. This is where Abraham is. Is this the test? Is this the test that God wants? To see what Abraham's going to do. Everybody thinks the test is the taking of Isaac, the binding of Isaac, all of this. Maybe this is the test. What is Abraham going to do? Well, I mean,
you listen to the Malachim when they first came in the trio, so maybe he's seeing if it's something more important. Or
yeah, but Rosh,
yeah,
I mean, what Cantor is referring to is back at the beginning of this parsha. Abraham, at the end of the previous parsha, Abraham has just circumcised himself. He's sitting in his tent in the heat of the day. He's 99, and these three strangers show up. And instead of just sitting there or backing himself into the tent so they don't see him, he gets up and he runs into them and he bows down and offers it, says, come and eat. And it turns out that they were angels. But Rashi says one of the angels was actually God's presence. So God actually showed up here at that point. Right? So even now, they broke bread together, right? As it were. So what does Abraham do? Is this the test? Maybe he's thinking, right? What do I do? I've been talking to God the entire time. It's been God and me. And now some malach is yelling, Avram, Avram. And then, I mean, it's not like he's putting down the wood. Isaac is on the wood. The fire is probably ready to go, and the hand is raised. Is that the test to see what he does?
Question. It's God, right? God can do anything. How do we know God isn't faking it? Faking the angel thing.
Yeah, but that would not be in keeping with what we've been led to believe with the relationship between the two of them. That's something that some commentators point out. It's like it's a messenger of God. Maybe we could read it a message from God. But again, they've had this one-on-one kind of relationship, and now everything's turned on its ear.
A related question: what does the messenger say mean?
Perhaps quoting God. See, the interesting things in Judaism, angels, the malachim, can only do what they are told to do. They don't have free will. They don't really think. So the keruv, who's guarding the tree of life in the garden, all he does is stand there with his sword, swinging it around, keeping us away. He doesn't think, boy, I've been here like 4,000 years. I'm getting tired. The seraphs are the ones that deliver the message, and then they burn up because out of the zeal, right, for doing what they want. So
God has spoken about him, her, itself in the third person before, so the whole thing could be a direct quote. I now know you are in awe of God. It could be God speaking there.
What I'm saying is, it is a direct quote. The messenger is said. God said to the messenger, "Deliver this." Right. And it's a direct quote.
And I think a lot of times people assume that the "I know" aspect of that is said by the malach, when in reality, or whatever reality was then, the whole thing was said by God.
I'm thinking there were some mushrooms. But the idea is that now Abraham is in a bit of a pickle. He doesn't know. What does he do? What does he do? So, what was the first thing? Talking to God. Second thing? Third thing?
Together.
The yachdav. Now the fourth thing, the messenger. The messenger. Now, here's my plug. You got to learn Hebrew. The text makes no sense in English. It makes sense in English but the idea is I'm going to be coming up on something that is dependent on a knowledge of Hebrew when you're reading this. If you don't have that knowledge, you rely on the English, and the English tells you what happens. The Hebrew doesn't. And that's for any language. Any language. In German, Franz Kafka wrote a story called with Joseph K., The Trial.
Yeah, the trial.
Right? And in every English translation, except one of the most recent, it is someone must have been slandering Joseph K. because one morning, without having done anything wrong, he was arrested. Without having done anything wrong. What does this set up the story as? He's innocent, right? He's innocent. And this whole thing, right? And so decades of literary criticism, decades of interpretation with Kafka was Joseph K. was this great martyr. In the German, it's a subjunctive. Without seeming to have done anything wrong. Without seeming to have done anything wrong versus without having done anything wrong. The first one now is a doubt. It didn't seem like he did anything wrong, but we're not getting the whole story apparently, versus he's innocent. That's the problem with translations. There's never a word for word. And so now we're going to be coming up on something. The whole story hinges on this one word. One word. It's a throwaway word. One word. Okay. Do you remember all four things? There is a test. God's testing Abraham. I'm going to test you. I mean, why not? Right? Okay. We good? All right. That you were number 3. Nummer 4. Tobias. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this.
Let's do that.
Ya'amod. Tovia Baruch ben Adam Besar al
Abraham
Yaharvi.
Vasara. I thought you said Adam. I'm sorry.
Abraham Besar al Yaharvi. You're definitely one here.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayisa Abraham et einav vayar b'hinei ayel echad nechaz basavach bekarnav vayelech Abraham vayikach et ha'ayel vaya'aluhu leolam tachat beno vayikra Abraham shem hamakom hahu Adonai yireh asher ya'amer hayom bahar Adonai yireh.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Abraham lifts up his eyes at this point and he sees an isle. He sees a ram caught by its horns in the thicket. Side note, this is where we get the idea of the shofar on Rosh HaShanah. The ram was caught in the thicket. So he finds this ram, he sees this ram, and now, okay, so what does he do? He takes the ram and offered it as a burnt sacrifice. Now we are in verse 13, right? The end of verse 13, what does it say? And Abraham took the ram, offered it as a burnt offering in place of his son. What does that mean? He switched them out. He switched them out, right? In place of, right? Okay, that's English. The Hebrew word that is there, it says that Abraham takes the isle, vaya'alehu la'olah, and offers it as a sacrifice, tachat beno. Tachat. It's a preposition. Means one of two words. It means one of two things. It means sometimes in place of. The word tachat in this part of Genesis is used 18 times. 3 of those times, twice it means in place of. Once it means, I don't know how I got there, but it's not relevant. The other, 15? Right? The other 15 times, the word tachat, and almost every other time you use the word tachat, Cantor Beth, what does tachat mean? Underneath. Underneath. So in the Hebrew, he took the ram and placed it underneath his son. Underneath his son. Where is Isaac at this point? Still on the altar. And now what does he have underneath him? A ram. Abraham's going to offer the ram as a sacrifice under his son. How do you get to sacrifice that ram if Isaac is on top? Say it. Say it.
You can't really.
You have to go through. What does that mean? Friends, this is not a trick question. Honestly,
Stab Isaac in order to be able to.
Yes, and what does that mean for Isaac? He's dead. He's dead. The word tachat is what this entire episode hinges on. The word tachat in Hebrew has two meanings: a common meaning, meaning underneath, and the occasional meaning of in place of. When the rabbis were writing how to interpret the Torah, they pointed out that if you don't know the meaning of the word in your sentence here, you do what's called a gezerah shava. You go to the next closest place that word is used, and if you know the context of the meaning there, then that's what that word will mean here. 5 ahead of this, the word tachat means underneath. 4 after, the word tachat means underneath. What do you think the meaning of the word here then is? In place of! No. No. This is an ambiguous story. The entire story is not meant to be, it's not WYSIWYG. It's not what you see is what you get. You have to know a lot about Abraham's relationship with God. You have to know the method of story being told, right? Why is it important that we know that God and Abraham talk directly? Why is it important to know that 4 people went on the journey? Why is it important to know that it had been stressed twice that Abraham and Isaac are walking together? What was the 4th thing?
Messenger.
Why is it important that we remember the messenger, or that we notice the messenger? And the 5th thing is this word tachat. This word tachat. Now, the English says in place of. Story over. Isaac is safe. They all go home. They have tea and crumpets. They have some pie. Everybody's happy. You would think that interpretation does not hold a lot of water with what follows. Okay? So, that was you were number 4?
Mhm.
Oh, number 4.
4 messengers.
Number 4 messengers.
I mean, 4 people on it.
4 people. 4 people. Ta'amod, Chazan, Batyabat, Baruch of Shoshana, Aliyah Chamishi.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayikra malach Adonai el Avraham shenit min hashamayim vayomer bi nishpati neum Adonai ki ya'an asher asita et hadavar hazeh velo hasachta et bincha et yehidchecha ki varech avarchecha Vaharba arbe et zarecha kechochavei hashamayim v'chachol asher al sfat hayam vayirash zarecha et sha'ar oivav v'hitbarchu b'zarecha kol goyei haaretz Ekev asher shamata b'koli vayashov Avraham el na'arav vayakumu vayelchu yachdav el be'er shava vayashev Avraham bi'ber shava.
Baruch אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נצא בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Let's put a question mark in what has Abraham done. Is it in place of or is it tachat? Underneath. Okay? Hold that in your head now, because everything that you're supposed to remember now comes into play. So a messenger of Adonai calls out a second time. Is it the same messenger? Is it a different messenger? We don't know. It's a messenger. And there's a voice, a quote from God. By myself, God likes to swear by God's self, right? Who else is God going to swear to? I swear to God. I swear to myself, right? It just doesn't work. Declares Adonai that because you have acted thus, what's the thus? In place of, underneath. And would not deny me your son, your only son. I will bless you greatly, and I will multiply your seed like stars in the sky and like sand by the sea, and your seed shall possess the gates of its foes, and all the earth's nations shall be blessed through your seed because of your hearkening to my voice. Okay, that's an old quote, right? I mean, that's something that God said to Abraham at the very beginning in Lake Lecha, right? You'll have a ton of kids, you'll have a ton of offspring. How does that read right now? You have not withheld your son. You have not denied me what I asked. Reading that, plug in place of. What's God saying? You almost went through with it, right? You weren't going to deny me. I had to stop you. Okay, good. Yay, in place of. Now, I mean, if it's in place of, then story's over. They all go back. They go home. They have cake and they have rhubarb pie and birch beer, and life is good. But you know what the problem is? It's that last verse. It's that last pesky verse. If we had ended it at verse 18, life would be good, right? But we go, and Abraham returned to his young servants. Abraham, young servants. And they rose, and together.
And a donkey.
Well, and the donkey, but apparently the donkey doesn't get, he only had his one line and that's it. At the end of the story, how many people are going home? Abraham, the two. Oh, where's Isaac? Yeah, because at the beginning we had 4. We were told that Abraham and Isaac walked together. Abraham comes down to the young man by himself.
And the donkey's gone too.
The donkey actually had fake horns on and wound up on the altar. Do you see the problem here? I'm not making this up, right? I mean, I can make things up. No, seriously. I mean, the Torah, there are places that are really, really, really ambiguous, but even more ambiguous than this. But we had a lot of hay made about Abraham going up with Isaac together, walking together. He comes down by himself. The 2 boys get him, ostensibly the donkey's there, and they head to Beersheba. In place of means that Isaac is what? Alive. Where is he? He ran away.
With the donkey.
There are Torah commentators that say, yes, he ran away and he went and he studied at the Academy of Shem and Aver, the yeshiva. No, there was no academy. There was no place to study Torah because the Torah hadn't been given yet. But the point is that Isaac is not there. Where is he? In place of, that's a huge question mark. And I really can't move forward because in the next Parsha, he's back. In Chayei Sarah, after Abraham buries his wife in the cave, he sees Isaac and sends Eliezer, his servant, to find a wife for Isaac. In place of. Does it fit here? It can. It can. Underneath. Puts the ram underneath Isaac, goes through Isaac to get to the ram. The voice calls out, "Hey, by myself, I didn't think you had the cojones to do it, but you did it. You killed him. It's what I wanted." Talk about, oi, Avram, what a man, what a mensch, what a guy. I'm glad I picked you. And I am going to make your seed great. What's the problem? He just killed his seed. Ishmael belongs to somebody else now. The Muslims take Ishmael, right? But the idea is that Hagar is not Abraham's wife. He still has Sarah. Sarah and Abraham gave Isaac. Isaac now has not been withheld. He has not been denied, but God is going to bless Abraham greatly.
With exactly what he blessed him with before.
With exactly what he had blessed him with before, right? And now, the tachat meaning underneath, this makes sense, right? If God's drive was to have Abraham sacrifice Isaac, boom, it win. He doesn't buy the assistant calling, sees the ram, puts the ram underneath Isaac, and now, 2 for 1. God provided the ram, as Isaac pretty much requested, right? Where's the sacrifice, Dad? And now Abraham gets the same blessing that he had before, but what does that blessing mean? It's about as much as it meant before, because now he doesn't have a son from Sarah. Underneath, makes sense, Abraham returns to his boys. Abraham by himself. Where's Isaac? On the altar. Dead.
Do you think it's a coincidence that the very next portion is Chaye Sarah, where Sarah dies?
Yeah. Well, the rabbis in the Midrash say that Sarah drops dead because one of the angels went and told her what Abraham had done, because he doesn't check it out with her, right? So what's the test? At the very beginning, there's a test. What's the test? It's a test to see if Abraham will actually do it. Will Abraham not do it, but argue with God about it at the end, right? God, why not? I'm going to go through it. Abraham might be thinking, this is what God wants. I'm going to do it. But sooner or later, I'm just going to yell back and say, absolutely not. And Abraham is about ready to do it. Is he calling God's bluff, or is God calling his bluff when the angel comes and says, don't do it. No, I know now that you're going to listen to me. I know that you're the right guy. Whose bluff is being called? Because Abraham was going to go through with it, and it seemed like God was going to let him go through with it. And so, it's one of those standoffs, right? Who's going to blink first? And apparently, God blinked first. If it's in place of. If it's in place of. If it's underneath, nobody blinks. And it happens. It goes through. Abraham sacrifices his son. God says, okay, I'm going to bless you. Remember that previous blessing? That's still in play. Problem is, there's no seed. There are no children. How do we resolve this? Why don't we hear this teaching more often? Of tachat meaning underneath.
Modern theology.
Modern theology. Right? What's the R word you're all not wanting to say? Resurrection. All right. 2 medieval commentators that are very difficult to find Both of them say that Isaac was dead on the altar, and that God, after realizing that Abraham did exactly what God wanted him to do, resurrected Isaac. And there are places in the prayers, the Amidah, where this is hinted at. So why don't we say that Isaac was resurrected, and then we move on to the next parsha. Anybody?
Well, that seems like a different religion, doesn't it?
Yeah, because
Like Jesus.
there's a religion that lays a lot of emphasis on a resurrection.
But if it wasn't the first,
Pardon?
but if it wasn't the first,
It's not even, see, even though it wasn't the first, if we have this as a resurrection, what is to keep those who have that resurrection from saying, God did it once, God can do it again. God did it with your guy, why can't God do it with our guy? And you see the trouble we would have with that, right? So how do we take that word tachat? Where do we put it? What do we do with it? I'm going to leave it with you. Right? You now know the secret of this reading. You now know why it's important and why we keep it with us, because it teaches us how to read and think about what's going on. One word, tachat. The entire parsha, the entire story hangs on that word. But I'm gonna sweeten it a little bit for you. The next parsha, immediately after this, is the death of Sarah. Abraham returns home, finds out that Sarah has died, and he goes and he buys the cave at Machpelah. A little bit of bargaining there with Ephron the Hittite. Abraham never spoke to Sarah again. Right? The last words he had with her were before he left. And I can't remember, but I don't know what they were, but Abraham never speaks to Isaac again. It's not recorded that they ever have a conversation again. They don't appear on the page at the same time again. Abraham never talks to God again. And God never talks to Abraham again. Almost immediately after Isaac is married, we find out that Abraham took another wife. Her name is Keturah. Rashi says that's Hagar, the wife with which he had, the concubine, the maidservant with which he had Ishmael. And guess what happens immediately after he marries Hagar? 6 sons are born to him. 6 sons, almost immediately. Because he's an old man, right? I mean, and Hagar's a young woman, but she doesn't want to wait, right? There are 6 sons listed to Abraham at the end of that parsha, and then he ultimately dies as well. Is that the seed that God is promising? If it is, we made a mistake, right? But where are those sons, right? We don't know. I mean, those are just, their names are recorded, but they're lost to history. God never talks to Abraham again. Abraham never talks to Isaac, never talks to Sarah. It's a tough story. Hangs on one word. One word, tachat. If you go to Israel today and you use the word tachat, 9 out of 10 times it means underneath, just like it always has, right? I don't know how to tell you what to think, or I don't know what to tell you about what to think. about this story. This is just one example of the ambiguity found in the Torah, in which things will either hang, meanings will hang, and stories will develop, or they won't. I'll tell you that this was probably originally, because of all the repetition in it, was an oral story that they told around a campfire or around a meal. And I'm certain the words were left to be ambiguous so that people would have to think about it. Right? If Isaac is dead on the altar, then everything that God said to Abraham has been a lie or not yet fulfilled. If Isaac survived and is vanished and then comes back, okay, we could live with that because it was in place of. The Torah is not meant to be put on a shelf and, oh, that's a nice book, that's a nice scroll, right? It's meant to be taken out and taken for a ride and to be wrestled with and struggled with. If I made this much hay out of one word, what else is in there that we're missing because we rely on translations, because we rely on what other people want the text to mean? If you want Isaac dead on the altar, then what was the test, and who passed and who failed? Or was that even the test?
Test could have been, will you push back like you did?
Will you push back?
And he failed to do so.
And he failed to do so. If the test was to go forth and do it, then God failed, because God should have stepped in the moment it was obvious that Abraham was going to slay his son.
Perhaps the test was, as I send a messenger and I'm waiting for you to be like, hey, God, I've only been speaking to you. There's
the pushback that Scott's talking about, right? So, who's the hero of the story?
Isaac.
The donkey? That's where I was going.
He's the only one that is scared.
The unnamed donkey. I'll tell you what, though, later on in the Torah, there is a talking donkey.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that donkey is a descendant of this donkey, because this donkey, did his role very, very well, and then gets rewarded with a speaking part in a later production. Right? This is a tough story. This is not meant to be read and just sloughed off as, oh, it's about Abraham is a great man of faith, and da 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 da. Well, there's some problems with Abraham here. Some problems with God. There's some problems with a lot of things. But it's a great story, and it makes you think. And I don't know. This year, I think he was dead. Last year, I thought he was alive. Every year it changes because it's the mood that I'm in. And so it's a great story, and is very, very enigmatic and makes us think. I don't know. I'm going to leave you with it. It's up to you now, not me. I'm done. But any questions?
I have a quick question.
Can we have that sermon? Is that what I'm going to hear? Can we have your sermon instead? Good.
And again, I don't know the Hebrew on this, but when it says would not deny, I mean, that could mean that he went ahead and did it, could it not?
Well, I'm saying if he did it,
Right.
What that means is God is saying,
right,
here's the message, kids. You did it. Yay! Wonderful. Good. I'm going to bless you with lots of offspring. Hasachta, withhold.
Yeah.
That you did not withhold.
Did not forget, did not withhold, yeah.
It's interesting, this Hebrew is
Made up of root words.
No, it's made up of root words, but it's also there are some letters that get used in Hebrew, like the shin and the sin. They look exactly alike. One has the dot on the right, one has a dot on the left. One is pronounced sh, and the other is s. But they're for all intents and purposes, the same letter. So what Hoyt's talking about and what Cantor brought up was hasachta, right, which could give us the word for slaughter if it was a shin, right? But when you're reading it, you don't know if it's a sin or a shin, because either way it could be correct. One means that you did not slaughter, and the other means you did not withhold, which means, right? Is it a shin?
Think of the word shecht. Chashacht. That's what
Yeah. The somebody who shechts, a shechter, is a slaughterer. A shochet.
Like you even said, when animals are going to slaughter, they speak out more or less with their sounds. Was Isaac just laying there? I mean, they don't say anything about him covering his mouth. I mean, do you think he was screaming and saying, maybe even to God, help me, or?
I mean, it could be. We never get that side of the conversation, Just like we don't get Abraham's side of the conversation when he's told.
Except from Rashi.
I mean, maybe he asks a couple questions, or maybe he just does nothing or says nothing until God clarifies. Like maybe he's just kind of sitting there blinking like, okay, there's more to this story, right? Until God clarifies enough that he goes and does it. Yeah.
So I had a rabbi who was my first boss when I was in rabbinical school. His name was Harris Goldstein, but that's not, he changed his name. What was his Hebrew name? Oh, I can't remember his name. But I worked for him. He was in charge of Los Angeles Jewish AIDS services. We were the ones who went when Jews were thrown out of their homes because they had HIV and AIDS. So, we'd go to Beverly Hills to pick up some kid whose parents were embarrassed because he had AIDS and they couldn't show their face in public because, what would the neighbors say? But Raphael, his name was Raphael, Rabbi Raphael Goldstein. He had an interesting take on this story. He agrees with much of what I say, but he said that Isaac was born of two older parents. Sometimes older parents have difficulty with conceiving or birthing children, and sometimes, as Raphael said, he thought that Isaac might have had some sort of developmental disability, right? Which would then lead to think that Isaac was a bit docile and not easily and easily manipulated, right? Dad, where's the sacrifice? Oh, don't worry. Okay. Right. I mean, and I'm not making fun. I mean, I'm trying to make it sound like, Isaac is naive and that. What Raphael hung his hat on for that was in the next parsha when Eliezer brings back Rebecca from Haran, and they're riding in, and she sees Isaac in the field. And she, according to the translation, she alit from her camel. She, jumped off her camel to go and Isaac. The Hebrew word is nafal. She fell off her camel. She took one look at Isaac and wondered, what have I gotten myself into? Again, she alit from her camel makes it sound like she was very excited. Literally, she fell off her camel. She was surprised at what she saw. And he said, Isaac obviously would have had some sort of developmental disability that was very obvious that when you looked upon him. And Rebecca was a little shocked. So lots of questions for this story, and we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more, but I could go all day. But now for my sermon. Seriously, any questions? Any comments? Any worries?
Toby just added Isaac's years of practice in ventriloquism finally paid off.
Don't do this! Don't do this to the kid! Wow, God, your voice is awfully deep. Not Billy, David.
I just have one question. Why did Sarah let him go?
He didn't ask.
He didn't ask. And number two, that actually the question could be answered at the very beginning. Abraham arose early in the morning. He got up before she did.
He snacked it out.
Yeah. And the fact is that, the very first question when we get to the next parsha, because the parsha ends here, right? I mean, this is the end of that particular reading. The next one picks up, Sarah has died and Abraham is getting ready to bury her. So Rashi says, when we left her, she was fine, right? And it was that one commentator, which I think is really, really, something that I would do, is God told her what Abraham was about to do. God told her, not, and then everybody else says it was an angel that was sent to her. But one very, very, very sassy commentator said, no, it was God. God went to Sarah and said, hey, you know what your old man's doing? You're going to love this. I said, take your son, your only son, the son you love, Isaac. He did. He's on Mount Moriah. He's in Moriah now. Going to sacrifice the kid. Boy. And that's it. And she died. She dropped dead. Don't worry. If God is going to strike me down, there's no collateral damage. God has very much better aim. And God's going to say, you want to sound the shofar, don't you, kid? Not this year.
I couldn't even get a sound out of that thing.
No, but we're at the Haftarah.
That's thing.
All right. Well, let's lift and bind the Torah. I'll be Hagba. No, I'll be Hagba. You can be Golan. Or do you want to do Hagba?
I'll have to get
Oh, fine. Please rise as Cantor Beth shows that she's much stronger than the rabbi. Please rise for the lifting and tying of the Torah.
Izot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael Pi Adonai B'yad Moshe Asher Shad Devarim Asher Shad Devarim Asher Shad Devarim Ha'olam Amen. Asher Shad Devarim Asher Shad Devarim Asher Shad Devarim Ha'olam Amen. Al HaTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gimilut chasadim. Al HaTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gimilut chasadim. And this is why I usually
No, you messed it up.
Sure, it worked perfectly for me, is all I'm saying.
You got that?
How do you break that?
I have no
She broke
idea,
it.
but he did a good job with it.
All right. There we go. All righty.
Get yourself all organized now.
Pardon?
Get yourself all organized now.
I was so excited. I got to teach and I get to give a sermon. No, I'm kidding. All right. Scott. Yes?
Yes.
Come on up. No. We have shofar first. This is fine. Cantor Beth is right again. may be seated. The Haftarah for the second day. Blessings are the same, so Scott's not as impressive the second day as on the first, because the blessings are the same. But the second day Haftarah, I believe, is on page 255. 255. Blessings before and after.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim ורצה בדבריהם הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת והצדק.
All right. Martha, you want to read a little bit?
Oh, yeah, okay.
You want to come up? Or you want to sit there? Either way.
Okay, I guess I'll.
Okay. Come on down. You are the next
That's
reader
company.
in this week's
We
Haftarah.
don't fight on holidays.
I don't, but answer that.
I start here.
There you go.
Okay. And there is hope for your future, Jeremiah. Thus said the Eternal, a people, survivors of the sword, gained grace in the wilderness. Long ago, when Israel was on its journey home, the Eternal appeared and said, with an everlasting love, I have loved you. Indeed, with a love that is faithful, I draw you near. Once more, I will build you up, young maiden Israel. You will be made anew. Once more, you will take up your drums in hand and join the dance in the dance of the joyous once again. You will plant vines on Samaria's hill, and the planters will live to enjoy them. For a day is coming when watchmen will announce in the hills of Ephraim, arise and let us go up to Zion, to the Eternal, our God.
Keep going.
For thus said the Eternal, cry out in joy for Jacob, cry out in praise over the pinnacle of the nations. Sing and shout and say with voices raised, Eternal, save your people, the remnant of Israel. I am here to bring them back from the land of the north, to gather them from the ends of the earth, to blind and the lame among them, women who are pregnant along with birthing mothers. They shall return here, a great community. With weeping they will come. With compassion I will guide them. I will bring them on a smooth path to brooks of water. They will not falter, for I have become like a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Nations hear the word of the Eternal, declare it in the distant islands, and say, the one who scattered Israel will gather them in and guard them as a shepherd the flock. For the Eternal has redeemed Jacob and saved him from hands stronger than his own. Keep going. Happy their song when they reach the summit of Zion and bask in the glow of divine generosity, grain, wine, oil, sheep, and cattle. They will be like a well-watered garden through and through, never again to languish. Then maidens will dance with delight, the young and their elders together. Their grief I will turn into bliss. I will comfort them and gladden them in their time of sorrow. The priests will have their fill of fatness, and my people, my bountiful goodness, declares the Eternal. Keep going. Thus said the Eternal, a voice is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children, for they are gone. Thus said the Eternal, keep your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your labor shall have its reward, declares the Eternal. They shall return from the enemy's land, and there is hope for your future, declares the Eternal. Your children shall return to their land. How I hear Ephraim lamenting. You have disciplined me like a wild calf. I have been disciplined. Help me return, and I will return. For you are my eternal God. Now that I have turned back, I am filled with sorrow. Now that I am made aware, I strike my thigh in remorse. Ashamed and humiliated, I carry the disgrace of my early life. Truly, Ephraim is my precious child, my delight, and though I speak against him, I remember him with tenderness. That is why my heart yearns for him. I will receive him back in love, declares the Eternal.
Amen.
Thank
I
you.
thought you were going to have other people.
I thought so too, but you did such a great job.
Thank you.
You did such a great job.
Thank you. Have fun.
Oh, blessings. Thank you for being
Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech tzur kol ha'olamim tzadik b'chol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom ha'zikaron hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu לכבוד ותפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך הכל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ביום הזיכרון.
You know, I left one thing out.
He doesn't want to blow the shofar again. He's just procrastinating.
No. I'm sorry that this is what I was trying to remember about resurrection. Do you know what the Haftarah is for Parshat? What is this? Is Vayera, for the one that has the binding of Isaac. You probably don't, but I'm going to tell you. Well, first of all, do you know what the Haftarot are, right? Where they came from? It was a time when ostensibly we weren't allowed to read Torah, and so people went through and found other places in the Bible that had stories that were similar to what was going on in the Torah portion, right? So the Haftarah for this Parsha is, they say it's picked because of the idea that Abraham was being a gracious host. So it's the story of Elisha, the assistant to the prophet Elijah, who takes over for Elijah, and this relationship he has with this woman and her husband. The woman can't have children. Elisha comes, he stays with them, and they welcome him. They build him a little room. They make it nice, and that's what the Haftarah should be, right? That's the very beginning of it. That's about a third of the Haftarah, right? The rest of the Haftarah is about something else. It's about the woman who has a young child, and he dies. And she is brokenhearted, and she sends for the prophet and says, come and do something. So he comes and he does something. What does he do? He resurrects the child. He breathes into the child, and the child rises up and goes on and lives a full life. That is 2/3 of the Haftarah that we read. Now, if it was just about this idea of Abraham being very gracious host, then we could have stopped it at that part where they're talking about the family being gracious. But they have this whole thing about resurrection and the resurrection of the young child that takes up the bulk of that Haftarah. What are they trying to tell us? Go ahead, look it up. You can. I might lie. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. So, What did you learn today, kids? The rabbi's a heretic. Are we back here?
Rebecca, yes.
268.
And ready to go? Yep.
All right. Let's get them up. Please rise. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah. Shvarim Trua. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shvarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Areshet Sifatene Yerafanacha Elamnisa. Areshet Sifatene Yerafanacha Elamnisa. Bivinu mazin mabitu makshiv lekol tekiyatenu. Utkabel berachamim ubratzon seder zichronotenu.
All right, you may be seated. Look, Hoyt, on page 270, there's a prayer for our congregation.
Thank you. Eternal presence, who blessed our mothers and fathers, bless this holy congregation, a house of study, prayer, and righteous deeds. Together we give thanks for our leaders, those who learn, teach, and uphold the Torah, inspiring others to learn, teach, and uphold the Torah, those who do the sacred work of building our community. May their service bring them joy, fulfillment, and purpose, and may they go from strength to strength. For our members, diverse in age, interest, and background, Jews by birth, Jews by choice, and those of other faiths who join with us, all who offer their time and talent, their love and commitment. For all who come here on this holy day of Rosh HaShanah to share the search for meaning and renewal, your presence is a blessing, your friendship is a gift. May the spirit of peace, dignity, and respect live within these walls, inspiring us to care for one another with compassion. And may we be a source of goodness, light, and healing for the world. May the one who blessed the generations before us bless us as we stand together this day. One congregation joined with all Jewish communities of the world through our prayers on this festival of the New Year. Let us renew ourselves for the year ahead. Let us honor the precious legacy that is ours.
Amen. All right, I'm going to break up the prayer for our country. So I'm going to ask on page 272, Elizabeth, would you read the first paragraph?
God of holiness, we hear your message. Justice, justice you shall pursue. God of freedom, we hear your charge. Proclaim liberty throughout the land. Inspire us through your teachings and commandments to love and uphold our precious democracy. Let every citizen take responsibility for the rights and freedoms we cherish. Let each of us be an advocate for justice, an activist for liberty, a defender of dignity, and let us champion the values that make our nation a haven for the persecuted, a beacon of hope among the nations.
Thank you. Ronnie, would you take the next paragraph, please?
Yeah. May our actions reflect compassion for all people within our borders and abroad. May our leaders and officials embody the vision of our founders to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity.
Shana, please.
We pray for courage and conscience as we aim to support our country's highest values and aspirations, the hard-won rights and that define us as people, the responsibilities that they entail.
Thank you. Cliff, would you take the last two paragraphs?
We pray for all who serve their country with selfless devotion and peace or war. the fields of battle, the clinics and classrooms, from government to the grassroots. All those whose noble deeds and sacrifice benefit our nation and our world. We are grateful for the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that our founders ascribed to you, our Creator. We pray for their wisdom and moral strength, that we may be guardians of these rights for ourselves and for the sake of people now and forever.
Amen. Thank you. Page 274. Avinu Shabashamayim Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo Barech et Medinat Yisrael Reshit Tzmichat Gulatenu Hagein Aleha B'Yavrat Chastecha Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha Ushlach Orcha V'Amitecha L'Chasheha Soreha V'Yoetzeha V'Taknem Be'etah Tova Milfanecha Chazek Et Yidei Meginei Eretz Kodshenu V'Hanchilem Eloheinu Yeshua V'Ateret Nitzachon Ta'atrem V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz V'Simchat Olam Liyoshveha V'Nomar Amen. All right, Mom, on 274, how about the English?
You who are high above all nations, states, and peoples, Rock of Israel, the one who has saved us and preserved us in life. Bless the state of Israel, first flowering of our redemption. Be her loving shield, a shelter of lasting peace. Guide her leaders and advisors by your light of truth. Instruct them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who build and protect our holy land. Deliver them from danger. Crown their efforts with success. Grant peace to the land, lasting joy to all of her people. And together we say,
Amen. Dr. Murphy, S. Please come up to return the Torah. We're on page 276. I'll ask everyone, please rise as the ark is open.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו, עודו לארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לעמו, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו, הללויה, הללויה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו המלחמה. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו המלחמה. כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם תורתי, אל תעזובו. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה, דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. אשירנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם.
All right, please remain standing. Try this again. Page 284.
Kia. Shvarim Trua. Kia. Kia. Shvarim. Tekia. Tekia. שפתנו ילך לפניך, אליך ונישא. שפתנו ילך לפניך, אליך ונישא. מדינו מאזין מרית, מקשיב בקול תקייתנו. ותקבל ברחמים ברחמים וברצון, סדר שופרותינו. ישר כוח.
Please remain standing. We are on 286. Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה לייצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המנה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
On 288, let's read together in the English. And so, Adonai our God, we look to you, hoping soon to behold the splendor of your power that we revealed, a world free of idolatry and false gods, a world growing more perfect through divine governance, a world in which all human beings make known your name, while those who do evil turn toward you instead.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
May be seated. Mourners Kaddish, mourners, those observing yard site, found on page 292. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shmei Rabbah, Ba'almad, Yivrach, Hirutei, V'yamlik Malchutei, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah, V'zman Kariv, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevorach, Li'olam, Olamei Almayah. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yithadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shmei, Dekusha, Richu, Le'elah, U'elah, Mikol, Birchata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechamata, Damiram, Be'alma, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'imru, Amen. May be seated. All right, folks, just a couple of questions just a couple of
We never run out of questions.
announcements. I don't know what the weather is outside right now. Is it still raining?
It was raining earlier.
Yeah, well, that was 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Or more.
But I don't know what to do about Tashlich.
Thoughts?
Says it's clear.
Says it's clear.
I'm gonna go look out the window. You know, that's the thing. You know, there's windows back there. Everybody's sitting here thinking, saying it was raining. It was raining. Get up. There's a window. You know, here's the thing. My favorite verse in the Torah, maybe my favorite verse in the entire Bible, is the children of Israel are standing at the Sea of Reeds. They have just come out of Egypt, and they've just been freed, and Pharaoh is bearing down on them. They're between the devil, literally, and a deep blue sea. And so they're complaining. Moshe gets up and goes and offers this eloquent prayer to God. God says to him, "Why are you crying out to me? Speak to the children of Israel and tell them to move. Do something." Look out the window. It's supposed to be the 3.
It's like, if you don't open the box, is the cat dead or alive? Schrodinger's cat, yes.
If it is not raining at 3 o'clock, we will do it.
If it is not raining at 3 o'clock, we will be at Ritter Park.
At Ritter Park. If it's even drizzling, we won't be, right? Well, no. If it's dafka raining, if it's really raining, we won't. But anything short of that, we'll be there at 3.
All right.
Because I don't want to have to reschedule. So that's today at 3. No class today because of a holiday. Wednesday.
No Yiddish choir.
No Yiddish choir.
Yes,
Yes,
Yiddish.
was known for the holidays. Am I wrong? He knows. I don't know. He's right.
Yes, Yiddish choir.
Somebody make a
Yes,
decision,
yes,
please.
Yiddish choir.
You know,
Okay.
you know the choir that's our choir that's the best from coast to coast, the Yiddish choir that is the most. Wednesday night, Zoom or in person.
Zoom.
They'll be zooming it. Huh?
You're singing a bit.
You're singing Abyssal. Are you going to be there? No. They're just saying. Then Friday night, we're back for Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat immediately before Yom Kippur. That's at 6 o'clock Friday night. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock Saturday morning for, again, continuation of Shabbat Shuvah. 9 o'clock next on Sunday. And then we'll have the cemetery service. It's a brief service, but you can visit with the loved ones and people that you haven't seen in a while. That's at 11 o'clock Sunday, and then we'll be back for Kol Nidre, and I'm not going to announce the time because there's just too many times right now. You'll get the announcements through email. But just remember, 3 o'clock today, Tashlik, bring your bread, bring your crackers. If you don't have any sins, it's not too late. It's not too late. I've got plenty to spare. And most of them are hers. And I think
At Ritter Park at the
Ritter Park you'll see where the Jews are.
like straight back from the fountain, isn't that right by the bridge? Is that where we usually meet?
This is the bridge, yeah.
So it's at that little bridge, like directly behind the fountain.
So if you find the fountain,
Keep going.
keep going straight until you hit the water. If you hit the water, you haven't found the bridge.
Kids like to drop rocks in there. They were dropping rocks in there when Melanie and I walked by. They were like dropping big rocks.
Okay, well, we'll drop little pieces of bread.
Yeah.
There you go.
Much
Bounce it
healthier.
out.
All right, and that's it, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yasher Koach to everybody, and that is everybody participated by being here and just by being wonderful. Thank you for spending your second day Rosh Hashanah with us and allowing me to do something that I had never done on Rosh Hashanah before, which was teach that piece of Torah that I've been dying to teach for almost 23 years as a rabbi. So thank you. Yasher Koach to Cantor Beth for leading us. Members of the choir who were here.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you for singing.
Yay. Thank you for helping Cantor Beth. And we're going to close out with Adon Olam.
Sure.
And Candle pick one.
Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, page 298.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra v'nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hover והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשיל לו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תחתית, ולא העוז והמסחר, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בצורך לי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוסי, מנת כוסי ביום מקרא, בידו הכית רוחי, ותישן ואירה, ועם רוחי גבייתי, אדוני לי ולא אירה. שנה טובה.
We have a couple of people. Oh, wait. We've got people on the intertube. We've got Sammy Shabakai. I hope that's right. Happy Rosh Hashanah. Thank you. G. David T. Grant David, how are you? Shana Tova. So thankful to be able to join High Holiday Services. We are glad you are here as well and hear the great sermon cantor. Oh, no, it's a comma. The great sermon cantor, singing, and all the joyful banter. Thank you, Grant. Hope all is well with you. Love and shalom from Florida. We're sending it right back at you, Grant David Tate. John Rosenberg from Kentucky. Shavua Tov on day 2. Thank you, John, and to you and Jean as well. There's Bella Robinson, Shana Tova from Philly. I'm glad to join virtually and to hear the shofar today. Miss you, friends. We miss you too as well. All right, pardon?
I just said miss you, Bella.
Oh, Elizabeth says she misses you. Everybody else was silent. I don't know what to make of that. No, I joke. We miss you, Bella. Everyone, Shana Tova, Mitzukah, good year. May it be sweet. May it be filled with blessings. And please, as you go out, just be careful out there.
Yes, watch your steps.
Bella says, LOL, exclamation point.